To the news at 9 now, as the Nelson Mandela centenary celebrations kicked off in Cape Town. We look back at that historic moment when he walked free after 27 years. Now, Madiba's eldest daughter, Makaziwe Mandela-Amuah, shares her deeply personal experiences of that time with us. A very good evening to you, Sis Makaziwe. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, certainly one can never forget that iconic image of your father walking out of prison after 27 years. What was that moment like for you personally?
It was a very joyful moment. I was not in the country. I was studying overseas at the time, but I watched him walk out of prison on TV. And it was a moment filled with expectation of perhaps, of regaining a father again, who you had lost for 27 years, and maybe more than 27 years, actually.
You know, Madiba has always attributed this day to others who shared his sacrifice for liberation. You know, his selflessness is something that we also remember today, don't you think it is?
Yeah, I think Dada sacrificed a lot in his life. And he did not have any regrets about sacrificing his life. But Dada never talked about Nelson Mandela himself. He talked about the glorious me. He recognized very deeply that, he walked out of prison, a free man, but, there were others who were still before him, like my uncle Walter, and so many others. And he knew that the freedom of South Africa was because a lot of people had sacrificed, even a lot of unsung heroes had sacrificed their lives.
Let's fast forward a bit, Sis Makaziwe, to today, where the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the centenary celebrations is an opportunity to reunite the party. What lessons do you think they can draw from your father's leadership?
I think one of the most important things, really, that they can draw on as the ANC is that, it doesn't mean, when you talk about unity, it doesn't mean that everybody is actually on the same page. But the ANC has to learn to discuss their things in private and their differences. But when they go out to the public, they must go out with one voice. And one person communicating, not different people communicating different things. I think today, as far as I'm concerned, the ANC is his worst enemy. Because, they talk about unity, but they don't display a united front themselves.
That's exactly the next point I was coming to, Sis Makaziwe. Now, the country finds itself in a predicament, and as you've indicated as well, so does the ANC. What do you think perhaps the ANC would need to do to try and find its way out of this political impasse that it finds itself in? They
have left what they're facing now might be different, but leaders before them have had similar challenges, but they've been able to deal with these things quietly internally and solve their issues internally, but not have public squabbles. They must go back and look in history how other leaders have led before.
Sis Makaziwe, unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much for joining us. Madiba's oldest daughter, Makaziwe Mandela-Amuah, thank you very much for your time this evening as we continue to remember, of course, that historic day. Let's take a short break here on the News at 9. We'll be back straight after this.